Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all the stuff. Let's get the word out. I'm really excited to hang out with one of my good friends. Joe Peebles is an aircraft technician, which, I think is great because one day I'm going to have a jet. And he's been doing that for the last 18 years, but he had just he's a husband, he's an amazing father, he's got all the stuff. But he has quite an interesting background where he's at. So, let's just start right there, Joe. We were just talking about that. So let's go back to like where you started and then what got you into the aircraft industry, and we'll just go from there.
Well, thanks, Angela. I appreciate it. We were just talking about where I'm from, like where it all started. So I was born in Hawaii. My dad was in the Army. We did a lot of traveling. I don't remember any of that. I was too young. And then around fifth grade, my parents decided to be missionaries to Samoa, and that's where my mom's from. And so we moved to Samoa, and we were there for about 7 years. I was in middle school and started going to high school. Really got involved in church myself, and somewhere around, I think it was like we were out, preaching with the pastors, because it was very Pentecostal, very outreaching group of individuals, and we did a lot of that when I was very young, 10 to 14, and we would go to people's houses and do outreach to people and just help people out. And it was part of what we did as a church. But something happened around that age, and I started to get curious about life outside of church and life outside of religion. And I started getting super curious about what other types of life were out there. And I really rebelled. I cut church out completely from my life, and got super involved in a lot of drugs, and got super addicted to methamphetamines. And at 14, I was a little meth head running around, causing trouble. And I had decided when I left the church, I had poured everything. At that time in my life, that was my whole life. All my friends were there. My whole life was there. And what happened there hurt me. And I decided that day that I was going to be instead of trying to be the absolute best person that I could, I was going to try and be the absolute worst person that I could be.
Right.
And I did pretty damn good at it. And I caused my parents hell, ran away a
Gotcha.
couple times, lived in a dumpster on the big island of Hawaii for a couple months.
Well,
And
if you're going to live in a dumpster, I would say Hawaii sounds like a better place than like
hey,
Alberta
it's
right
nice
now, where
and
it's like
warm.
minus 40.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys are dealing with that right now. Oh man. Um, but yeah, so I got really, really bad, and lost a ton of weight and had no control over myself, and was absolutely proud of it. 100% proud of the person that I had become. Uh, and I didn't care if I died or not, as long as I was high. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to get choked up. But
No, it's
I don't,
crazy. Like,
I don't really think about it much. Um, but it was a tough time, in my life.
what
And I was trying
started
to
to
figure out.
switch it for you? Like, where do you remember where stuff started to switch? Because you're obviously not that person now. Like I said, you're very successful, both by world standards and with your family and with a lot of different standards for that matter. So what started to switch that? Why didn't you die?
Um, in all honesty, there's something that I keep hearing a lot, and it's life happens for you. You know,
Yeah.
uh, my parents decided to move back to the states, and at the time there was no methamphetamines around that area.
Mm.
And so we moved back, and I ended up quitting cold turkey, going through um, detox and all that myself, not letting anybody know. I'm sure my parents knew there was a problem, but they didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
And if they did, they loved me more than anybody could.
Mm.
So, um, my parents always told me since I was a kid I could be whatever I want to be,
Mm.
and so I've always jumped both feet in since I was that age. Jumped both feet into my religion and my belief and thought I was 100%. And then when I decided that it wasn't, I jumped out of it 100% and went full fledged. You know, I want to be the absolute worst. And then going through that detox and I struggled with that for a long time, probably 11 years of still wanting to go and find it or possibly try it. And it wasn't easy. I don't think about it at all anymore. It's not even an afterthought at this point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But coming out of that, I still wanted to be a bad person. I still wanted to kind of show out, and it's kind of I was a pathological liar. I lied to everybody. I told them that I was way cooler than I was, and the problem was I wasn't confident in myself. I didn't believe in myself,
Mm-hmm.
and so I made up lies for people to think I was cool,
Mm-hmm.
and pretended to be this person that I wasn't. Pretended to be this person that was cool for everybody else, and I never even took a thought to think what does Joe want, you know. And really, when I decided at like 14 or 15 that I was gonna go all out, I figured I would die around 20 to 25. I really didn't plan to live past that. And so even when my wife met me when I was 18, she asked me, what do you want to do with your life? It's like, I don't have no plans. You know what I'm saying? I'm just here. I'm probably going to die, so it doesn't matter. I didn't tell her that, but that's how I felt in my head.
Right.
As far as plans and goals, I had none, no aspirations.
Yeah. Your goal is to die, basically.
Yeah. And so when I went to Afghanistan, I ended up joining the army, and I had a recurring dream for a long time that I would wake up in the desert and I would get shot and I would die. Um, and so I figured this was it. I was going to Afghanistan. Something was going to happen, and I was going to get shot and die there. So it's all coming to reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I learned a lot in the military going through all that, but I was supposed to be on a mission
Mm-hmm.
on May 30th, 2007. I was coming back from leave and I got stuck in Kuwait. And so I was a day late returning to my unit, and they had a huge mission happening. It's one of the largest missions since the invasion of Iraq. And I was slotted for a flight. And because I was late, I wasn't on that flight. And so they had to replace me on this flight. Well, this flight went out the first leg, and the seat that I was supposed to be in, that aircraft got shot down, and all those people on board died. And the worst part was, in this time, I was still being, I still thought I needed to be this hardcore dude. I mean, I'm in the military. I'm a door gunner on a helicopter. I'm a badass, and that's how I felt. And I felt like nobody could touch me. I'm hard. I need to be mean and aggressive. And there was a guy that took my seat on that aircraft. His name was Jesse Blaemyers, Sergeant Jesse Blaemyers. And for the most of the time that I knew him while he was alive, I wasn't a nice guy to him. He was a Mormon. He was a religious dude, and I mocked him because of that. And he was an easy target, but he was an NCO, and I was a younger enlisted guy. He had a lot of patience with me. He was always treated me with respect. And they took my seat.
Wow, you're gonna make me emotional. Like, I mean, talk about a higher calling and a higher purpose. You wanted to be on that aircraft and die, and you weren't able to make it. That's crazy. So then when that happened, did that kind of shake you?
Yeah, that rocked me. Um,
Really make us
that
all
made me.
emotional. Everyone's gonna be crying on this episode. And guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, like Joe is a badass guy. Like you look at him, he's tough. So it's kind of interesting, but he's a softie inside. Oh man.
Well, that guy, of all the people, that guy,
Hmm.
and I carried that weight for a long time, and that guilt. I never want to feel that guilt again, in all honesty.
Hmm.
And so, basically, from that time, I've been changing the way that I approach people. I've made it my business to know people outside of work, outside of what we do here, and really found, that I'm a fucking nice guy. I'm sorry, I'm a nice
It's all
guy.
good.
You know, say like, honesty.
You are.
I'm too nice, and that was my problem. I was pretending to be somebody I'm not.
Mhm.
It took me 35 years to figure that out.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, going through that, coming out of the military,
Mhm.
I was overweight in the military, so I never could get promoted. I ended up getting booted from the military on a medical because of my back. But I didn't care because I couldn't get promoted. I was so excited to get out of the military, in all honesty. So I'm sorry, my nose is stuffy now. But
Is it good?
so I got out of the military and went right back to Afghanistan. Me and my wife had ended up we had gotten married right before I went to Afghanistan. And soon after I got back from Afghanistan, I was dealing with PTSD,
Mhm.
didn't know it, paid no attention to her, and was not a great husband. And we ended up getting divorced. Had a baby, like a 1 year old at that time. And we ended up getting divorced, split up. And I ran away, went back to Afghanistan as a contractor, and got addicted to opioids in Afghanistan. And all the money I made out there, I threw away. At 100, at I don't know, 25, I was in Afghanistan making six figures and more money than I had ever thought of. The year
Mhm.
before that, I made $28,000, and I was in Afghanistan for 13 months. And as a soldier, and now I'm out there as a civilian making that type of money, and I was just blowing it all on drugs again and withering away. And but I worked with some of the most amazing people on the planet, and they worked their asses off, and they taught me that I don't know shit about working on helicopters because I thought I did, but these guys run me under the table, and they were older than me and more experienced, and they could run circles around me and make me look like I didn't know anything. And I got super intrigued. These guys challenged me and taught me a lot, and
Mm.
started really learning my craft, and really enjoying turning a wrench and understanding how helicopters operate and understanding how to tear them apart, put them back together, understanding wiring and stuff like that. So I really honed in on that and focused on that because I had nothing else in my life. I was in a war zone. I was happy that I was in a war zone. That's a problem. And I was excited to be there. And I was working my life away, working my pain away. Because me and my friends talk about this quite a bit, my other helicopter mechanic friends, about being in Afghanistan. And the reason that we love working so much is because no matter what, if there was rockets flying, if there was bullets flying, if there was a guy over here pissing you off, if you were having a great day or a bad day, it didn't matter. You were working, you were turning a wrench. And that's where we found our peace.
Mhm.
And so kind of like really uh, honed in on that and gravitated towards that craft. Soon I was a lead running maintenance on these helicopters out there, and my team was phenomenal. They taught me a lot about being a lead, and the hardest thing about being a lead, if you ever get promoted to a lead or something like that, or if you're in charge of people, is leading your friends. Is difficult, and so it's a lot easier to become a boss of people you don't know, because you can set the standard immediately. The hardest thing that I've dealt with so far as a business owner and a person is leading individuals that are my friends, because I'm a nice guy.
Right.
It's hard. But yeah, so I left Afghanistan, came back to the States. Me and my wife decided to try again, and we decided that we had just grown apart, and got back together. And I was dealing with PTSD. We ended up having another child, and I was blessed. I got a job at Gulfstream down in Savannah, and I ended up building jets. So I went straight from helicopters to one of the biggest, baddest jets in the planet. And the fact, they hold records and records for the fastest jets out there. And I remember just walking into that building in awe of these massive things in front of me. And, we're building them with our hands,
Pretty cool.
in Savannah, Georgia. And it was amazing. I was just, I still love helicopters, but I love some jets too. They're amazing. They're actually much more simple than a helicopter, as far as technically. Uh, there's a lot more leeway in the maintenance.
Sense.
Yeah, because everything on a helicopter is trying to tear itself apart.
Yeah.
So uh, ended up working at Gulfstream for 5 years. Really loved that. Ended up getting in some trouble and losing my job there. And then back in helicopters, working EMS helicopters all across the Southeast. If there was a helicopter on top of a hospital that was broken, I was probably up there fixing it. And so met a bunch of interesting people there. Really got involved with the EMS people and the medics and the nurses and the pilots. And seeing that tight knit group and having a mission outside of the military, it was a very good transition for me. Something I kind of needed. But I couldn't find how to make that work for my family financially, and that was the biggest issue. And so ended up leaving there and going back to a jet world, and then crewing all over the world, on some jets, doing support for we moved like animals and stuff like that. It was pretty interesting. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about any of that work. In all honesty, there's a lot of secret stuff we did there. So, but it was a lot of fun, and I started doing repair on jets solely. Going out doing the stuff by myself for a company, and I was like, I could probably do this as a business. I had tried little side hustles during this whole little path of me from Gulfstream. When I lost my job at Gulfstream, I was like, I got to figure something out. Got to figure something else out. I'm just a number. I thought I was going to retire at Gulfstream, and it didn't work out. And now what? Now I'm out here fending for myself. So I started kind of pitter pattering. I've had 4 failed businesses. And, I know why now. Looking back, I'm like, I wasn't doing anything right. I figured, I'm going to put it out and I'm Joe Peebles and everybody knows who I am because I've made it my business to know people and they're going to buy from me. But I didn't know what I was selling, and I didn't really sell it, So anyways, went through all that, learned how to do this stuff by myself. And in the process, I've learned how to, I was a master trainer in all these locations that I worked. So I've learned how to train people, and I've used those techniques. A friend of mine gave me that book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others. I read that book, and it changed my networking life, changed the way that I approach absolutely every conversation that I've had. And I did a review of that book a couple months ago, and
I should review that book again. I think it's on time.
It's so good. But I was reading, it's like, that's what I do. And, I listened a little more. That's what I do. And I realized I've adapted that whole book to my life. And I lived that book to a T, to include when he talks about Abraham Lincoln writing letters to people and then sticking it away to mail it later and never mailing it. The way that I
I'd
approach
love
that.
to see your list of those letters. As long as I'm not in there, we're good.
It's not a big one. But now I'm running a business doing jet repair across the world, and I'm giving opportunity to people to grow, and I'm helping change the culture. I'm seeing a lot of lack of certain things that I want in our culture here in America. And so with my business and my influence of the 8 people that are working with me, I'm able to directly impact much more, than anywhere else that I could. I have direct impact. We stand up and we salute the flag on Monday morning. We we express wins on our family side in our meetings. It's very important that I the culture of business aviation has always been around family. That's what they talk about: family, family, family. But I've never seen my family, and I've been in this business for 18 years. My kids are growing, and I don't see them much, and it's a hard life. And when they promise family, they're building family within the company, but we're forgetting the ones that love us behind. And they're driving this work culture and the success culture. But I'm searching for multidimensional success in my life. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good man. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good business owner. I want to be a good friend. I don't just want to be rich. I don't just want to be successful and on posters, or a good friend that can't help out my friends. I want to be able to be multidimensional, in that approach to life. And so, yeah.
I want to go back a little bit. So a couple things that I want the listeners to, I don't know if they caught. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. So, which is awesome. Go back and catch it. But one of the things that I just want, if you're listening, he worked at a company that was a massive company, and he was just a number, and he could be let go at any time. If you're working for someone and you think that it's forever, it may not be. Most people get laid off. So have a side hustle, build something else outside of that. Joe also mentioned, that he tried 4 different businesses and they failed. He figured out what was wrong with them, but they failed. And what so many people do, and if you're doing this, don't. They take a failure and then they're like, oh, it's not for me. I was not meant to run a business. I was not meant to be an entrepreneur. I was not meant to be, because I failed. No, you just needed to learn from that failure and try something else. Or try the same thing again or whatever, but learn from it and pick yourself up. He also mentioned that one of his friends gave him a book that helped him immensely. Who are your friends? Who are your associations? So I want to dig into that. I know we're in the same group, Arte. How important do you feel associations are in your development of where you were at to where you are? And then also, like, people are always like, well, I don't want to cut out my friends. This is like the biggest thing. So some of the people, I'm sure a lot of your friends have changed from like throughout all of this. And how have you changed your friends, and how have you dealt with that concept of associations personally?
I've heard it said pretty well in the last couple of years. It's, your closest 5 people are you, or the greatest reflection of you. And so for a long time, I just tried to chase anybody that was doing better than me. If you were a manager and I was a tech, I was talking to the managers because I wanted to figure out how to be a manager. If I was a manager and I'm looking for the GM, I want to talk to the guy higher than that. I want to figure out how he got in the seat, because I'm trying to excel. That was at Gulfstream. I figured I'd be there. I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was really good at it. And I thought, after reading that book, I started really just honing in on, chasing it with intent. Who am I associating with? And, there's one thing that a lot of good mechanics tell you, and they'll tell you who not to work with. They'll tell you right away, this guy's no good. This guy's great. Go work with that guy. and it goes quick. And so reputation in this is very high. It's highly regarded. You'll know if somebody's not good before they show up. And so um, just finding those key relationships and people that have that I guess that reputation of when they show up, shit gets done, and finding that person and saying, "Hey, who's that guy?" Because that's the guy I want to be around. Um, and started associating with them, and really, um, I don't meet many people that don't become my friend. In all honesty, I end up talking to people, and I love talking to people and getting to know people. So I try to become almost everybody's friend. There's something, Chris Saunders. He always says, it is his mission to provide light to people. I forget exactly what his saying is. He says a banter every morning, and I listen to it every morning because I love it. And for a while, I said it because it is amazing. And he talks about being a catalyst and changing people and being a light to the world, and it's amazing. And really, that's what I'm trying to be at this point in my life. I'm just trying to spread a little light, because man, I'm blessed. I've had problems right now that people wish they had, and I cannot believe that. I was a freaking crackhead dropout from high school, and had to go to military boot camp to get my GED. And went through the military and went through losing jobs for stupid reasons, because of myself and my stupid mouth or my stupid actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I was done with that. But I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going with that.
No, that's
Angela.
good. No, that was great. So basically, Joe is and was conscious of who he wanted to be his friends. So who do you want to be with? Who do you want to be your friends? And I know I've done the same thing. And are you going out of your way to make them your friends? Like I kind of feel like sometimes like a kid where I'm like, can you be my friend? I mean, I feel that way. I don't know if you do, but like I'm conscious the same way. Like I have certain people I really want to be my friends, and I pay to play in those circles too, of course, which I know you do also on a big scale. To be in those circles and be with those friendships that cause us to step up. You also said you read a book. Do you read a lot? Do you listen to a lot of audio? Personally, just curious.
I do. I listen to a lot of audio. That's how I started. I never read a book for a long time. But I started this business, JP Aerotechnics. I started this business in 2019, and I was terrified, and not really terrified. I was really just, I had no direction. I had no idea how to do what I needed to do. And I started finding podcasts, and I found the Real Business Owners podcast. They were in RTA at the time. I don't know if they're in RTA now, but they talked about pay to play. And then they brought on a guy named Ryan Stewman, and Ryan Stewman wrote a book called The G Code.
Mm-hmm.
And I live my life off of that book, most of it. I follow a lot of that. I like to take stuff from books and and put it in my life where I can. Like the power list that Andy uses. I can only use the power list in my business life. I can't use it for anything else because it doesn't work for me. But
Mm-hmm.
it works there, right? And so I use it in my business life. Aside from that, I don't use the power list. I use G code, and I follow a lot of stuff in that G code. It's genetics. Um, sorry, I'm having a brain fart. It's the 4 Gs. They talk about gratitude, start your day off with gratitude. Then you hit your genetics, you follow your group, and then you get your grind on with your business, and I went in all 4 of those sectors of my life. I hit my power list at work, and sometimes I use different little things for my workouts. I use different little things that I pull from Ed for other things. And I don't want to be any of these guys. I just want to be Joe. And so I'm just trying to figure out what works for me. And I'm not trying to mimic you 100%. But if it works for you, there's probably a little thing that I can take from that and apply it in my life and maybe make it work. And I tried to do the power list the way that it's supposed to be done for my life, but I can't figure it out because I feel like I have way more stuff to do, and I can't categorize it that way. And it doesn't make sense to me in my head,
Love that. So yeah, so guys listening, like take what works for you and from all the people that you do follow, and listen to lots, and then like work on stuff and see what, and sometimes I'm sure it evolves. I know for me, it's evolves when like I've done 75 hard. And when I did the 30-day part, it was actually harder than the 75, like, you know what I mean? So different things happen at different times to grow us. So it's really cool. He's talking about couple different systems. So what works for you and become the best version of you? Joe's not trying to be Andy. He's not trying to be Ed. He's not trying to be Ryan. He's not trying to be anyone besides Joe, the best version of Joe. So whoever you are, you need to become the best version of you, not the best version of me or the best version of Joe or the best version of whoever else you follow. It's the best version of you. So I love that. I know we could go forever, but in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions that I ask, and then anything that we would like to leave our listeners with. Number 1 final question is someone looking for their purpose. What's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
Sit down for an hour and actually think about it.
I like it. Be quiet. Be quiet with yourself. Number 2, and you've mentioned a few, but I don't know if they're your favorite. What's a favorite quote and why?
Oh man, I listened to your podcast. I heard this and I forgot about it.
You knew it was coming.
Oh man, you have to give me a second.
Okay.
On that one.
What's one word? We'll come back to that then. What's one word or sentence you would want on your gravestone? How do you want to be remembered?
Joe had a good time.
Good time. He didn't die at 20.
Yeah.
I was thinking of all kinds of sayings on your gravestone. I was like, oh man. Coming back, did you think of one of your favorite quotes? And maybe it's not your favorite like all the time, but what's one that kind of jumps out to you?
You know, I always just go back to this thing that's always in my head. It's always in my head. It's not a quote that's written down. It's something I've heard a lot in my life. And it's just get after it. Get after it. I hear that in my head probably 500 times a day. And it never stops. You know, it never stops. If I'm loving, I'm getting after it. If I'm hanging out with my kids, I'm getting after it. If I'm putting time to a friend, I'm getting after it. If I'm putting time to my business, I'm getting after it. If I'm going to rest, I'm getting after it. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm going to get after it. And that's I don't know who said that, but it's stuck in my head.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a quote that I constantly hear.
I love it. Get after it. So if you ran into someone in a coffee shop and they're like, hey, Joe, listen to the podcast, man, your story's incredible. What, you know, some of the stuff that you're doing and where you're going, I got a lot of value from it. Anyone can be anything they want to be, no matter what their past is, no matter what their present is. That's also one of the takeaways I want you guys to get out of this. But what's something else? Is there anything else that we didn't touch on today that you just think is really important for our listeners to hear?
For a long time, I heard you got to be yourself. You got to be yourself. You got to be yourself. But I didn't know who I was. And so take some time and really, just like I said earlier with the one sentence, you know, actually sit down and think about it, because my life changed when that happened. I actually put some thought, some real detailed thought, and don't be vague with it. Vague just leaves options for failure, and it's not real. Make it realistic. Make it real. You know, try it. If you're in a vision and you're in that state, try to smell the paint. Try to feel the wood. You know, you're looking at your house in your vision. Try to open the door and look at that knob and feel it and hear the hinge squeak. You know, be there, feel it, make it real. Really take some time and see what you want out of your life. Yeah, that's it. I could tell you.
Visualize, really stuff. Feel it.
Yeah, make it real. Make it real to you. And then you'll know who you are. But until you do that, you know, you're just out here thinking you know who you are. But if you sit down and really think, you know, what do you want in life? What do you really want? And you actually really figure that out, now you got something to chase. You know, now you got something that you want done in your life. And you're going to go be you at that point.
So good. I love that. Thank you so much for being on, guys. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe. You know, we're going to have Joe's information in the show notes. Feel free to reach out to him for anything. I know he'd be happy to communicate with you if you have some questions or thoughts or anything like that. Let's go out there. Let's change one starfish or one person at a time. Together, if we can change one starfish at a time, together we can change the world. Thanks so much for being on, Joe.
Thank you, Angel, for having me. I really appreciate it.